Good afternoon, everyone. I like to send my deep gratitude to Des and Michelle for giving me this opportunity to share the most important gift, the most precious gift I have ever given myself in my life. I'm 75. When I graduated to become the official MBSR teacher, I feel proud of myself. I'm the oldest one in the class. And also, my promise to myself back then was to launch a mindfulness movement to the Chinese community only. But then I feel that I really like to share the most precious gift I've ever given to myself. So I extend to a lot of different places, senior center, library, and schools, anyway. So I think before I start the theme of today, the mindfulness, I will share some of the slides that shows how I was influenced. I believe that as Michelle introduced me, I got a psychology master and taught few years at the university I graduated from. Sorry, it's the ringing on my background. This is really a new experience to me. And I think every one of us are experiencing the new experience in our life, especially in this difficult time, the pandemic. So I promise you that we all will experience new experiences in our life many times. So the attitude of mindfulness, one of them are very important. It's very important. Is the openness, beginner's mind. As the first meditation teacher, Suzuki Roshi, he opened up the first meditation center in San Francisco in the 70s. And he said, in the beginner's mind, there are many, but in the expert, there are few. So being openness is very important with the beginner's mind. So I think I will start as a volunteer, the whole, all my life, I choose. I was blessed. I have been blessed. I can choose either being a working mother with 3 children, or I decide to stay home most of the time. But I never stop learning, because there's a Chinese saying, says life starts at 70. So we keep learning, Doesn't matter how old we are. So actually I'm on my first Christian book. It's called A Course in Miracles, Made Easy by Alan Cohen, my favorite author. I will start to read it, even though I have some experience reading the Christian Bible when I was young. Okay, I think before, and then during my volunteer experiences, one thing came up to me now that we visited, I'm in Westchester County, and we have been visited Marino brothers, fathers, and Marino sisters. That's the senior center, or the, for the retired sisters and brothers and fathers. And I remember the first visit, I asked the sisters, what is the most precious gift from the Creator, from God? They gave me the answer that's very different from mine. I'm not saying mine is the best or the right one, but no one gave me the answer. From myself, and I told them, they give me love, they give me forgiving, they give me compassion. They're all right, but for me, I think the most precious gift from God is our mind. It's incorporeal. So I'm going to take you to a little bit of my journey. How come I became a graduate psychology major, and I keep on all my journey to explore, to investigate the mind, my mind, the mind. And I will emphasize, I don't normally say my mind, because in Buddhism, there was a common knowledge is all the suffering come from one word, I, me, and mine. So when I first realized I, always in capital letter character, I said, oh, no wonder, So I think a lot of you, this is a new experience. I normally can see your face, can see your responses, Now of course I cannot, but I'm open for the new experiences. So actually today is, let me take you to my, Michelle. So you, can you get my PowerPoint out, or?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I know Michelle, I think she suggests all this, suggests the mindfulness meditation with the subtitle of resilient. I changed it to the practical neuroscience of self-transformative brain, because I know this is an academic institution, and most of us are in the academic field. And I like to bring to the attention, and I think every one of you, I think, must be much better than my generation, that you are so good at the computers, you search, So anyway, let me see if I can. Oh, okay.
Oh, so you're sharing. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I will go to, the second one. I think we all want, I think that's everything's, I start to read all the English books 20, 30 years ago. By the way, I came to the States in 72, even though I identify myself as an Asian American from Taiwan. But I have been living in the States almost twice, not quite twice. I've been here like 72, so it's 48 years. I came in to the States when I was around 24, 25. Okay, so I think we all know that every one of us, we like to be successful, to be happy in our life, whatever the goal is. But I like to bring two authors, and two, one is the iPhone that was conducted in Harvard. I believe that's in 2010, Track Your Happiness. The next one, Mihaly, she's with U Chicago, the psychology of optimal experiences. He's talking about the flow. And all the essence is the same. It's we need to concentrate. We need to learn how to calm ourselves, to be centered, you know, in order to gain that joy and peace that's long lasting. And that's the secret to happiness. So in the iPhone app that's track your happiness, the finding is that almost 47% of the students, whoever joined the survey, they reply that when their mind are wandering, they have the feeling of unhappiness. Okay, and the same thing, Mihaly, that's the book of the psychology of optimal experience. They talk about the term that was new when I read it some time ago, the flow. Okay, and this is all talking about the mind, the intention, the concentration, the centeredness. Okay, now I like to know, I think most of the people now have heard of the mindfulness or the MBSR. Okay, so because I don't see you, I only see the, so I have to go to the, and because this is a very difficult time, so I will briefly show you this. I know we are all under a lot of stress, but this is from last year's, the physicians burnout in different specialties. It's around 30 to 55% of the physician. And my husband is a physician. So actually, he's on meeting at least once a week since the pandemic. And they send out a lot of the information about how to deal with. So there are some mindfulness meditation program in the hospital too. And this is one, the same thing. It's done by in 15. So the last one is 19. So it's talking about every one of us are under a lot of stress. So it's only one space, but we are either very mindful or mindful. And mindful in Chinese, it's, some people are learning, it's like today's mind or the mind in the present moment. That means mindfulness. I forgot to put in, but I thought maybe not too many people knows. So I will show you, this is from, I tried to update this diagram, this, but I couldn't find a better one. So I used the old one from 2012, the stress epidemic. US rank #1 anxiety country, and 27% in 12 is related with anxiety and depression, and cause a lot of money, the impact of the economy. And I remember last number I encountered is like over 5 something billions, So recent year, I will show another later, another picture. So clinical tool for stress, depression, anxiety, and pain is mindfulness. And the effect extended to enhance our IQ. I think most people know the intelligence quotient, EQ, the emotional quotient, or we call it emotional intelligence, attention and stress resilience. And the published research are so many more now. So it's from 2012, in 10 years, the growth this is becoming a leading, So how I started is in the 23 October issue, the Science of Meditation actually introduced by my dentist. He always have a lot of magazines in the office. And he told me I'm the only one read it. Not only one, but every time I read it. Sometimes I said, oh, I finish next time. He's so generous. He said, "Okay, you can take home with you." So, and then in 10 years, from 2003 to 14, they called it a revolution, or it's a movement. This is a brief introduction to allow you to know why I'm on this path. Marcus Aurelius, I think a lot of people know, it's Emperor Rome in 2000, more than 2000 something. I think it's around that time of the Buddha, when Buddha was, in the era. And you can take a few seconds because I think you read much faster than I do. So if we encounter any distress from either external or internal and cause us some pain, some frustration, he already in meditation. I read meditation from Chinese back to English, but I never finished the English one, So he said, it's always depends on how we estimate. And Mihaly, the power of the psychology of the optimal experience, the authors think it's how we interpret the situation. So briefly mention that this is my second retreat. Under this pandemic, I fell down on one of the retreat last September. I broke my ankle. So I had a surgery and PT for a few months. That was my first retreat. I was not engulfed, but I was affected by because it's a new experience. I never have surgery before. So this is my first surgery. But then very fast, because through my training of mindfulness, I told all my, they try to visit me, all my relative friends, I said, I really deserve the break. So it's the transform of some idea and make a lot of experience different. So this is my first experience. I will show you all different, doesn't matter, it's in Asia, in Eastern culture, Western culture, and Marcus Aurelius is a long time ago, and then come back to Qin Han. That just show you that actually disregard the culture, the race, the time. A lot of people, I call these people, they are visionary. These visionary people, just like Albert Einstein, when he talk about how we call the relativity, right? I think people doubt, Anyway, so this is from a Japanese Musashi, it's, how you call that? It's like night God. He said, there's nothing out of ourselves that can enable us to become better, stronger, richer, quicker, or smarter. Everything is within. So seek nothing out of, And Rumi, he is the 13th century's poet, philosopher. I would think he's definitely an educator. He emphasized the life force within every soul, within each one of us in our life. And it's just like, same thing, it's our mind. I called it our mind. It's easier for me. Okay. And Abraham Maslow, when I was in psychology, that was 5 years old. Somehow Abraham Maslow, I think, in your business school, I think probably some professor will touch about the self-realization, self-actualization, or self-fulfillment. That was formulated or named by Abraham Maslow. He affected me very much. And I remember I asked my professor, what do you mean by, what he mean by self-actualization? back then, no professor can answer me. But when I go through a lot of my up and downs in my life, I realize everyone have us. If we keep ourselves at peace with ourselves, that's very important. And Abraham only, I think I called it a he. So now we should put in parentheses she too, because this is, I don't know whether it's, but anyway, at peace. So we all have, and Ralph Emerson, the, how you call that, the pound, sometimes I mention to Des and Michelle, I never speak so much Chinese or Taiwanese with my husband these few months. So sometimes the other day I can't remember the oncologist. It took me a few minutes to say, oh, what I meant. I'd like to share. Some people ask me a question. So I mentioned one of the oncologists, and I cannot think of that word, so. And Emerson, he said, what lies behind us or before us, ahead of us, tiny matters to that what lies within us. And of course, I will touch that briefly. William Shakespeare, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So for me, in Chinese, we have a saying, it's called crisis in Chinese, 2 characters. The first character is danger. The second character is opportunity. So I think there must be some similar or equivalent expression in English talking about that. There is nothing, okay. And Viktor Frankl, he was in the concentration camp for 3 years. And he went through all the horror, the terrible seeing the people who he knew and they were on the electric chair or got executed. So he has this book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he mentioned the same thing. All we own, all we, can be taken away as a human being. But the last thing, and it's not easy for other people, it's to take away is our freedom, our ultimate freedom. That is to choose our attitude in any given set of circumstances, So I always told my friends, when they share with me, they want my opinion about, or how to help them. And I like to say, I'm a survivor. Doesn't matter what happened. I choose to be a survivor instead of a victim. So I will emphasize the liberation is in the practice itself. And it's a lifetime journey. As the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction, Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. So this is the current leader, Thich Nhat Hanh, He said, when we are mindful, if we deep touched or live in the present moment, in the here and now, our understanding of life or what's going on will deepen. And, if we can start to accept whatever is here, what is unfolding in our life with acceptance, joy, peace, and love. When Jon Kabat-Zinn, the founder, he started out this program in 1979. He didn't mention, he only, we call this 3 learning in Buddhism. The first one is, I like to use ethics. To be more strict, it should be precept. But I asked Jon Kabat-Zinn, I said, I know this culture, the culture is so different from how I grew up before I came to the States. So he said, maybe use ethics, it's better. And the second one is contemplation, and then wisdom. So the MBSR program actually was grounded in the second and the third, the contemplation and wisdom. And he lived out the ethics or the precepts. But the last retreat I was with him last year, I asked him the question. I said, because he always said, don't know, don't know. So we can adopt an attitude of don't know. And that can help us in life, doesn't matter what is unfolding. And he said, if you are interested, Michelle or Des, let me know. I can forward the email. It's called Too Early to Tell. And he quote from Zhou Enlai in mainland China. But anyway, I have no time for that article. But so finally in 2012, when he had this book, I will mention the reading. One is called Mindfulness for Beginners. That was out later in 2012. So I like to touch the two basic essence of the Buddhist teaching. One is law of impermanence, or we like to call it dependent origination. All phenomena arise from a combination of cause and condition, and it ceases according to the a lot of combination of cause and condition too. So it's called dependent origination. And we also, a lot of people, I know all the science talk about cause and effect. But in Buddhism, we put in condition. So condition is more like up to us. We can choose our attitude. So I quote this: if one understands the law of cause and condition, we can find spring in the midst of autumn frost and winter snow. Actually, there's an enlightened verse by, anyway, I don't say their name because it's in Chinese, I don't know. Okay, it's called, if we can live our life, he said, we can enjoy the flowers in spring, the wind in summer, and in the moon, in the beautiful moon in autumn, and the snow in winter. So every day will become a good day. And I will touch the most important, the ultimate truth is called non-duality. And I mentioned it before, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking made it so. And I asked someone, I'm not good at the English part, so it's Vimalakirti Sutra. And non-duality, I learned non-duality not from my upbringing. I learned it from Shakespeare. So we're talking about the combination of cause and condition, the impermanence. That's law of nature is changing. And I like to know, as powerful as the nature, they keep changing, we could be very small or very little. Even Mother Teresa said, we cannot do great things on this earth, but we can do small things with great love. And I think changing is resist to change is maybe more deep embodied in this culture. Sometimes I don't know how I identify myself. I always said I'm Asian American from Taiwan, but I'm happy to adopt a lot of beautiful American culture. I will, if I get a chance, if I go to my story, my life story, I will never finish. So this is, it's the wood money. I think, and now I read the story, they said they will, the factory, put this, so they will honor, 300 each household. So it's very cute, very inventive. And with mindfulness, we can be more creative and imaginatory. Okay, now come back to the, let me see my, okay. John Kabat-Zinn. I'm touching up what is mindfulness and not the other, only MBSR tools, formal, informal. And if I get it sometime, I will do a brief. But as I said, in the breathing practice, I would highly recommend while you are listening, you can pay attention to on purpose on your inhalation and exhalation at the same time. Maybe not a little bit awkward in the beginning, but I do that all the time. So that's called the mindful breathing. You pay attention to your breathing. Inhale, exhale. And we will be distracted anyway. Always come back. And the effects and the neuroplasticity. I hope many of you know what is neuroplasticity. And I like to emphasize the most important on mindfulness meditation is the intention motivation to start to practice. So here, it's paying attention to the present moment with intention, with motivation. But that's the first primary factor is awareness. And then letting go of judgment, non-judgmental, that's second part. It's for every one of us, the most difficult part is non-judgmental. We judge all the time, but it's okay. If we see our judging, come back to the breathing, and then we need to, we don't judge our judging too. So John Kabat-Zinn always said the mindfulness is the radical act of self-love and self-care. To emphasize, same thing, John Kabat-Zinn, paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. By the way, I'm happy to share this. So if anyone like to have my PowerPoint, you're welcome to send to Des or, for review. And it's my honor. So this is James Baraz. I think a lot of people, he's a great meditation teacher in West Coast. He said, be aware of what is happening right now, but without wishing it were different. So when we are enjoying our present moment with whatever, we don't want to hold on it and hoping it will not change. Of course, it will change. And when we are experiencing and in present experiences, we are fearful. We want to be, we want to be disappear right away, but it takes time. It's cause and condition. So self-awareness is the first primary. We have to be aware of our emotions, sensations, feelings, thoughts. We have to be aware first. So it's very crucial to psychological insight and self-understanding. Mindfulness is really to investigate, to explore, to discover who we really are. And I know a lot of people doesn't like to listen to this. And to help us to discover why and how we bring our life to this stage of our life, or to this state of our life. So with the psychological insight, we can have better pilots of life, better decision on marriage, on jobs, on fundamental emotional competence, so especially like the self-control. In short, awareness we are aware of our mood and thoughts about the mood. But the second factor is very important, non-reactive or non-judgmental to our inner states. Okay, this is another one. Okay, I think I will skip it. It's just to get you to your really, but you can have my PowerPoint if you know. And this I will touch it, it's EQ. EQ, the first factor, is self-awareness too. So MBSR training is 8 weeks, 2.5 hour and 1 day formal, 1 day silent retreat, but formal practice including mindful eating. So they start with few raisins on the hand because everyone is so busy. A lot of people, sometimes I do too, even with almost 30 years of meditation from the Chinese tradition, and then to mindfulness, that's Tibetan. It's a little bit different emphasis on the training. So mindful eating, I'd like to recommend you to start, if you don't have lunch now, start your lunch mindfully, mindful eating. Know what you are eating. Take time to chew, take time to swallow, and take time to digest. Mindful breathing, body scan. Normally in the training, body scan is the position of the, it's not important, but most people lying down. But you need to be lying down, mindful and alert. Mindful yoga. I do yoga for 30 years, but I just do it as an exercise. Even I know the definition of yoga is yoke together the mind and body. But my habit is just take it as, do it as exercise. Mindful yoga is, you know your limit. I can do split leg, but a lot of people cannot do it. It's fine. Know our limit and really take a look of ourselves. Sitting, of course, this walking and then loving kindness. Loving kindness meditation is really for some very strong emotions, from our childhood. And this is for people who cannot overcome their suffering, Informal is like everyday life, daily life activities. Be present. So here and now, so it's like teeth brushing, and all in the shower. A lot of people, when they're taking shower, they are all over, their mind all over. And eating, communication. So I like to talk to I brought up a very 3 wonderful, amazing children, not just academically, but also I think I emphasize their emotional intelligence too. So I emphasize the mindful communication with our children, with all our friends, whoever, driving, shopping, and interpersonal relationship. Okay, so this is I skip. Oh, sorry. This is 9 dots. The first, the first homework at first class. Without lifting off the paper, and use 4 connected 9 to connect all this. I will skip the answer. So if you like the challenge, do it without, the next slide is the answer. Okay? And I will mention that exercise, the point is to train us to get out of our own box or paradigm. We all have a lot of paradigm. Like I have a very morality standard myself. But after all this meditation and mindfulness training, I see that's constrain me and kind of like imprison myself too. So it doesn't matter how good or how bad our preconceived value, sometimes it's, so I'm talking about the three, I like this Rick Hansen. He's a meditation teacher. His wife is a nutritionist. And he had this book, it's called The Buddha's Brain. But the subtitle is The Practical Neuroscience of Happiness, health, I think, and love, I think, okay? Buddha's Brain. He touched the psychology, he's a psychologist, PhD, and neurology. So in his book, I learned a lot from him on the brain science and with contemplative practice, the meditation. And this I skipped too. Let me see. Okay. The effects, I will touch it on the chronic pain, anxiety, as I said, obsessive compulsive. But I like to emphasize this, with the practice, we can increase our empathy and self-compassion and compassion for others and prevent relapse of drug addiction and into depression. This is called MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And this is very important. All the doctors, like this new experience for most physicians, actually, they still don't know. They still don't know because it's so new. In Taiwan, they are experienced with SARS. But here, all the physicians, all the medical profession is still learning, whether it will increase our immune functioning and the stress, will that help with not infected by the, and this comes with from 23, David Davidson, it's Richard Davidson at Weizmann Imaging Laboratory in Wisconsin, I think. He's, he does a lot of the resilient, the brain ability, brain ability, how to process emotions and the stress. So enhance quality of life. Chronic pain, I touch it. The gray matter in insula and cortex. So if you are interested, I have some reference there. The gray matter is responsible for our memory and our learning. So, and a lot of my friends, relatives, their elder always get some Alzheimer. And so this can help. So if we start now, hopefully, eudaimonia in a psychological well-being. Sometimes I do my yoga. I can stop. I can help with smiling. I feel so good, just doing the yoga. Okay, the psoriasis or the fibromyalgia or the cardiovascular, you can watch my, so research shows that if we regular practicing mindfulness, we can improve our well-being, lower stress, and lead to a better improved psychological functioning. I touch a little bit of that, Michelle. Can I go a little bit longer or?
Yeah, Peggy, I'm so glad that you asked that question, and I don't mean to interrupt your presentation. I just wanted to be mindful of the time, and fellow guests, that are part of this session. So as Peggy said, we welcome you to stay because Peggy does have time to continue in her presentation and to also answer any questions you may have.
Okay.
If you need to leave, we completely understand because,
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, I was just wonderful, Peggy. But also in terms of our guests too, in the session, if you need to leave, we respect that, but we welcome you to stay because Peggy is, would like to continue your presentation and also answer questions you have. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Neuroplasticity is quite new, the terminology. It's really talking about When I was in school, 50 something years ago, and my husband's medical school, same thing. The neuroscience told us that, the brain science told us that the only neurons that degenerated in our brain will not regenerate. The Nobel Prize in past 20 years, a lot of them told us that actually our brain, if we keep using, use it or lose it, if we keep using it, actually the new synapses or the neurons can develop, so if you are interested, I know you're much better to Google this. And I like to bring this, so what's fire together will wire together. So we keep using especially the effects of the mindfulness meditation can bring up so much benefits. And I will show you one slide later about, they called it happy hippocampus. That's really can decrease the activation of the emotional centennial, that's called the amygdala, can decrease the activation of that part and increase the happy cells, okay? So Daniel Siegel is the professor, he's a Harvard graduate, medical school graduate. In MindSight Institute, he had a few books. One of them is called The Mindful Brain, and all the developing mind, He mentioned that in education, he advised the 4 R, because arithmetic, writing, and reading all with the R. The 4 R reflection. For me, I think relationship and resilient had to add it in education too. Hopefully, whoever here, if in the education field, I think we can start train ourselves to be resilient and all in mindfulness, and we can influence our student, In Dr. Daniel Siegel, the 9 middle prefrontal function that you can, so I mentioned that a new book, it's a challenge to me. It's called A Course in Miracles, because I read a lot of books and they mentioned this book, A Course in Miracles. And I know it's a huge book. So I bought a new version. It's called A Course in Miracles Made Easy by Alan Cohen. So this is the 9 benefits of the prefrontal function. Empathy, insight, fear moderation. We can shift from fear to love. Especially, I support the POC, Dharma Teacher Training at Insight Meditation Society. Because our organization, I belong to Tzu Chi Foundation, the biggest Buddhist charity foundation. All our mission is to the POC communities. And I have a lot of personal experiences and I know what they need, so that's the least I can help them, So the morality, the intuition, and the body regulation, the attuned communication, and emotional balance. Okay, this is same thing. Dr. Daniel Siegel also said, coherent mind, empathy, and relationship. That can bring us well-being. This one I like to emphasize. This is my new, they talk about neuroplasticity in 8 key brain regions. Parietal lobe is for the connected. So connected is very important. I'm sorry we have to experience, but it's non-duality. So we don't connect with our colleagues or as our friends. But I believe we connect more deeply with our family. And it's in this culture or in the modern world, it's not as much as we like to get connected. So actually connected, and then the balance, corpus callosal, it's really for movement, you know, it's balanced the two hemispheres of the brain. Oh, and the happy hippocampus, I mentioned that. With meditation, we can help with the depression patient, enhance memory, and we like to learn. Compassionate anterior insula, the kindness and happiness. EQ is TPJ, is a temporal parietal junction. Actually, you know, I'm not, if you are interested, you can always Google. That's good for success and relationship, you know. And fear-centered amygdala, I mentioned that it's under stress. Amygdala will be activated and also related to anxiety. And IQ prefrontal and can help kids. So mindful school, at mindful school, they emphasize very short period of mindful meditation, beginning of the class, you know, and that can help. And sleep. In my age, I'm 75, and some of my friends call me, always talking about insomnia or a lot of dreams. This can help too. I like to mention this book, Search Inside Yourself. It's Google's, one of the early pioneer engineer. And he, the same thing, this is new. So he said, the more we think about something, the stronger. If we start to be fearful of this, of that, the neural pathway will be conducive to that thoughts. It's become easier, and it become conditioned response. So mindfulness train us to be non-judgmental. We are aware, but if we feel overwhelmed, we come back to this breath. Inhale, exhale. And this is how they do the, you know, there's another article, it's called The Mind of the Meditator. I can send it to Des or Michelle too, you know. So important. There are two basic emotions in human, love and fear. So fear could be a stimulator for success. But in mindfulness training, I learned one new word. I cannot look it up in the dictionary. It's called eustress, EU stress. But I cannot look it up in the dictionary. Maybe it's a new, how you call that? It's a new word, new age word, you know. So always, if we can, in our mind, a lot of love, you know, that not benefit ourselves. My husband is not here, so I love to share. Sometimes during the pandemic, he was so stressed, you know, because he knew so much better than I do. And he said, I'm just like a blind person. So I'm not scared. My son is anesthesiologist. My daughter-in-law, my Caucasian daughter-in-law is OBGYN. And actually she was infected and fine now. So living with 3 doctors, I'm the one should be very stressful, but I'm not with the practice of mindfulness, you know. Anyway, so it's very important. I love this from Step by Step by Venerable Gosonada. Think before we speak. The thoughts manifest with the word. The word manifests as a deed, and deed develop into habit, and habit hardens into character, and character gives birth to the destiny. So we need to watch our thoughts with care. And the mindfulness training, the awareness, can help us to see our thoughts earlier. And with our calmness, through the practice, we can choose we don't use, in the slogan in mindfulness, we don't use react, we use response, okay? So it's very important, spring from love and respect for all beings. And I write this is sometimes I need to talk to the Chinese, you know, and this is very important, emphasize in our organization, gratitude, respect, and love. So actually, if we can start with, I learned from Oprah, you know, he said 3 sentences of gratitude journal, and that can change too. If you write, I'm grateful, so hopefully I can help whoever the victim to realize that start from within with gratitude, life can change. So talking about the manifest, Wayne Dyer, I don't know how I pronounce it right, D-Y-E-R. I don't know, the second book I read is Manifest Your Destiny by Wayne Dyer. And after the book, I thought, oh my God, he must be an American Buddhist. Later on, I know he's Christian. And I live in Scottsdale, New York. So this is a Jewish town. 99.8, when I moved to this town, it's all Jewish. And we attended a lot of, we attended to a lot of bar mitzvah. So when the rabbi is talking about something, right, I told my husband, they're spreading the Buddhist teaching too. So it's all religion, doesn't matter where I go, you know, Catholic. So I have been involved with the Buddhist Catholic dialogue initiated by Pope Francis. For many, many years, I represent our organization to attend this Buddhist Catholic dialogue, you know. So I think it's religion, all the goal, the direction, it's all the same. But how we really practice is, you know, okay, I come back to I think the last, attitudes of mindfulness is a non-judging, patience. That's my biggest lesson in my life. I think I'm very fast. You know, I try I see myself start to talk a little bit faster now because, you know, okay. Beginner's mind, I mentioned that. Trust. Non-striving. It's funny, after we meditate, sometimes the insight can pop out and we have a better word to communicate with our spouse or with our kids, our colleagues. Just a very minor change and it's becoming non-striving. We change our relationship. Acceptance, letting go or letting be, gratitude and generosity, it's very important. So this is, you can look, it's how we can practice our mindfulness. So a lot of people think mindfulness is a mental health. No, it's a public health intervention. It's a mind-body medicine. And the funny thing is I had glaucoma. It's more in the ratio, the Chinese and the POC are inclined to develop the glaucoma. And so I went to Columbia Medical Center every 3 months for the follow-up. My last checkup is mid-March. Usually the waiting room is packed. Amazing in the beginning of the pandemic. I mean, you know, especially for our for our country is kind of like beginning of March. It's less than 10% patient showed up. So actually, I think we can it's non-duality. People needs to go back to their checkup, but because of the more fearful circumstances, people seems fine, you know, can delay, you know, but anyway. So it's a complementary, it's not a replacement, and it decreases medical expenses, improve interpersonal, and you will feel that the experience of coming home with us. So, okay. And then the readings, you can, as I mentioned that, and it's through, okay, now I think I stop here. If there's any, you are welcome to have whatever, I'm sorry to use up too much of your Zoom time.
No, it was time very well spent, Peggy. Thank you so very much. And I appreciate, the guests that are still with us today.
Yeah.
And as Peggy mentioned, we'll send you all the slides so that you can take it with you and reference, those lessons, and those values, to include into, into your thinking, into your lifestyle. But yeah, for the guests that we have, still with us, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute your microphone, or else I think I may have to, but if you could just raise your hand or let me know in the chat, function, if you want to, say something or have a question.
I think I'm already unmuted. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, you are? Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful, Michelle, great.
Peggy, I have a question for you. The way I describe a lot of what we're going through in the environment is that instead of people living mindfulness, they live almost as if they're on remote control, where they're not even conscious of what they're thinking or doing. It's just by pattern, by rote. And I'd like to have your opinion in reference to it. Is it a combination of nature and nurture? And I feel that some people are just born happy, while other people, no matter how happy the situation is, they'll look at it in a negative light. Where does that really stem from?
For me, I think the upbringing, and like I was the oldest one among 3 siblings growing up. And, 2 of my twin sisters are more like in their temperament, even than when they were young. And my mother was the only daughter. She had, so I was, grew up like a young mother for my, and so I think it's a lot of, in psychology, always say 50%, 50%. It's not that, black or white, but it's more like by nature, the temperament or the personality. But as a parent, or when we grow up, we don't want to hold our parent be responsible for everything, so we can, by reading, by learning, by, we can slowly, and as I said, I'm a meditator from the Chinese, Taiwanese Chen meditation. And I think the focus is different. In the Chinese tradition, it's more like to emphasize we'll be enlightened, And for mindfulness, it's more like dealing with our daily problems. Yeah, so if you can, the intention and motivation is the most important.
And just as a follow-up question, do you use visualization techniques?
I learned too.
Okay.
I learned too, because I'm a very spiritual person, I learned that too, I learned it from Dr. Siegel at Yale, when my daughter is at Yale Medical College. So they know I like this kind of, so if any kind of similar program, they all invite me, and my intention is to visit, so Bernie Siegel, Dr. Bernie Siegel, use the visualization technique to help the kids, the young generation's cancer program. He's a surgeon. But at one point, he was so frustrated. He said, it's like not much the most I can do is to tell my patient that in your situation, you have how many months, how many years to live. And he feels so frustrated. So he took a year off, I think, went to Japan, went to, Asia to learn the meditation. And I think in his discipline, he had, so he used visualization to help them. Yeah.
Peggy, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I thank you for being here. I hope I'm planting the seed, and I see you two are really concentrate, and I congratulate yourself. And I think it's a mysterious force.
Yes, it is.
You here. And I hope you can, it's like a ripple. You can influence people around you too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, please.
Hey, George, you're on mute.
Yeah, here I am. I think I'm okay. Could you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Peggy. I really enjoyed your presentation and all the quotes and the poetry that you mentioned, and it was so beautiful.
Thank you.
My question is, you have the psychology background, and I think you mentioned you got a degree in psychology. And I'm wondering, and then you had that slide up with the 3 intersections of, I think it was psychology, mindfulness, and neuroplasticity.
And contemplation.
And contemplation and neurology.
Right.
Right. All right. So what is your experience of the, in today's times, a lot of psychology doesn't bring in mindfulness. Some do, some don't. How do you integrate that? And what are your thoughts about, therapies that bring in mindfulness to it?
Yes, actually, I'm involved in the MBSR Teacher Sangha in New York City. And there are so many psychologists. They all bring the mindfulness because it's like, John Kabat-Zinn think mindfulness is like filling in the crack in the mainstream medicine. And I feel the same thing. The mindfulness can fill in the crack of the psychology and the daily life, And because a lot of people, when we called it, actually, I did not get the license here. But I have a lot of experiences from helping people out, I think it's important that people normally either live in the past, yesterday is a history, or live in the future. So they neglect what is most important here and now. So mindfulness can bring all of us to be present with all our experiences. And as it's all the report, the survey, the research, you can go back to the PowerPoint, it's all reported. And if you want to go deeper, go read the article, tells you with practice, it's like a natural income of our practice. It's like, I forgot to mention, this is like to train our brain muscle. Mm. We all know that we want to do exercise, right? To build up a muscle. And this is to build up our brain muscle. And we will become naturally like intuitive and more compassionate. And we are more naturally, how I define joy and happiness and present is joy is more like a long listing, and it's subtle. It's subtle. Present, pleasure is like more sensual, right? More sensual. But the joy is more like in the whole body, or the body and mind, the whole person as a whole. So, and I think this is a culture, and even in Asia now, that people are so much emphasized in the material, in the taste. And by the way, I choose to become a vegetarian for almost 30 years too. And all my friends, they don't do it anymore. Especially my close friends, they pity me. But I enjoy myself and I don't think I'm as healthy as, yeah. Thank you for your present. Yeah. And but by slowly change ourselves, we can slowly ripple or radiate out, And my goal is that, how I say, it's the choice.
Inspire other people.
Yeah. Anyway, not saying that enlightened, but we can be just not affected by the external as much. And that's for sure with practice. So actually Tim Ryan had a book. It's called A Mindful Nation. And I don't know whether I happened to heard the interview for a senior fellow at Stanford University. I think he's a PhD too. Francis Fukuyama.
Mm.
And the reporter asked, what is the weakest point of this culture, American culture? And he said, polarization.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think we all experience there are so many black or white person. Their idea, their preconceived idea, either good or bad, right or wrong, whatever, especially the politics. They're full of so much polarized, black or white. And I think we must have experience with the normal distribution in statistics, even the skewed distribution. I see Michelle is smiling.
Yes.
I always said if someone close to me, if they become black or white, I always told them, the weather is mostly beautiful, right? The storm or the how to say, the dry, it's minimal. Just like the IQ, most people are in the 100, 120, in the medium. So the smartest or the least smartest are so small portion. The normal distribution is like a mountain, like a mountain, the curve, So, and the pandemic, for me, I'm not saying that I think it will, in the end, will help human beings. We'll become more humble. We'll become more reflective. And, and a lot of good stuff will come out. But we need to be patient. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So please, practice. And there's so much in YouTube. When I was under training, we have to pay everything. The practice, the CD, but now all the teachers are open. It's all in YouTube free. Yeah. If you type in the keyword body scan, the Kabat-Zinn, or Tina Han or whatever, there are so many free, and hope all of us with our small love, we can bring this country to become a mindful country, mindful nation. And I think, have you heard of, this is new for me, it's Thomas Sowell. He's a POC, he's a black, I don't know, author. I think he mentioned about the Black wisdom matters. So he tried to bring the positive influence into the POC community. I think that's most important. I also express my my opinion to the CEO of our organization, because we do a lot of monetary or the material assistance to the POC. But we need to emphasize the education and to help them to stand up by themselves and to appreciate. Because I believe gratitude is the first factor to be happy. We need to be grateful. So how we can bring that gratitude to people around us is very important. Yeah. I thank you for your presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, George. As we shared, we will definitely send you, the PowerPoint presentation. If you have any follow-up questions, or want to continue the conversation, do let me know, and I can
yes,
relay that to Peggy. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Stay well. Stay well. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Have a peaceful and mindful day. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.